now the back of my trapezius is like.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Do I have my agenda for today?
Oh, a little too low.
Okay. I always ask for a paper agenda. In case we make changes, I want to be able to make notes on the fly. Now, next meeting you won't have to do this, but this meeting I'm supposed to have a paper agenda. Well, I don't know who's going to be elected, right? But this is the last time Natalie is
I vote for
officially
Barbara.
responsible for providing me with the paper agenda.
I vote for Barbara. Since we're voting, it's a good thing I'm here. You know what happens if you don't show up, you get voted. Be bad. Hello.
Oh.
That's for you. Oh, I swag you guys.
Very nice.
Oh, thank you.
This is what I use for a briefcase, and then I have to pretty grubby.
We're live and ready.
Awesome.
All right. It is Wednesday, May 20th, 2015, and I would like to call to order this meeting of the Open Space and Ecology Committee. Can we now...
Before we get started, can I make a quick announcement?
Sure.
Right now, at City Hall, there is a reception in the conference room of all the photographs, some of the photographs of the fire hydrants. So come and see the fire hydrants pictures. That's it.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're wonderful. Now, I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and adopt the agenda as is, because Natalie and I really wrestled it into the ground this time, because we haven't. And then some things, well, I suspect will just have to be carried over because we frankly have too much for today. So let's just, my personal recommendation, if the committee agrees, is to just charge at it and see what we get done.
Let's do it.
All right. Can I have a motion? Oh, thank you, Glenn.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Okay, oral communications.
I have an oral communication.
This is for the public, and we have no public.
Well, this
Okay.
is from a member of the public who sent
Okay.
it to me.
Oh, okay, very good. Oh, sorry.
Request
Sorry.
that I bring it to the Open Space and Ecology meeting on this evening, and actually, this member of the public is my next-door neighbor, and she
Thank you.
kindly wrote it down in an email.
Oh, thank you,
So
Glenn.
I've
Nice,
made
nice.
copies. I think I've made enough copies. If not, we'll share.
That one had handwriting on it. Was that your notes, Glenn? or
I
was
made
it
it on scratch paper.
Oh, thank
so,
you.
Just happened that way.
No, I appreciate
Good for
that.
you. No, she recycled the paper.
Yep.
Absolutely. So does everybody have one?
Yes.
Okay. So my neighbor's on the Complete Streets Committee, and you can read all this for yourselves. Let me try to summarize it quickly. The Complete Streets Committee was asked to review some general plan, some amendments to the circulation element of the city's general plan, and forward their recommendations to the Planning Commission. And they did a draft and met with Ken Johnson in December. And one of their concerns is landscaping. They are concerned with basically the use of streets and encouraging pedestrian use, and that's how they came to consider landscaping as part of their agenda. So one of the changes that they wanted to recommend is that landscaping should consist primarily of San Bruno Mountain native plants and non-invasive drought resistance drought-resistant plants. And this would be, I guess, all city landscaping and just written into the general plan that was a preference. And they got into a bit of an argument about this, as the email describes. And so what we've been asked to do is basically endorse their language preferring native and drought-resistant plants. So that's, I told Colleen that she could certainly come to the meeting and speak about it herself, but since she knows I'm down here on Wednesday night, she sent me this email and asked me to read the comment into the record. So that is what I am doing. So I don't know what we do now. Can we act on this?
I don't think so, because it's not agendized and noticed.
That's
So-
correct. And I think you should also note that she wrote this as an individual and not in any official capacity or directive of the Complete Street Safety Committee.
She did.
Yeah.
She did.
So I guess you can decide if you want to agendize this at the next meeting.
I would like to agendize it for the next meeting.
Yeah.
I,
It could be considered as early as this week, so we may be too late. However, the council's meeting tomorrow night, and so if any members of this committee would like to go and weigh in, what she says is the city council will soon be considering amendments to the circulation element of the 1994 general plan. This could take place at the next regular meeting of the council on Thursday, 5/21/15. I don't know if we have updated information on that, but I suppose as individuals we could go and weigh in if we wanted to.
The agenda goes out the week before. It's not on the agenda tomorrow.
It's not on the agenda, I don't think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe we would have time to consider it our next.
I'd like us to agendize it and consider it, even if they already, I still think we should make that as a recommendation.
Glenn, could you possibly say a few words about what the contention was?
No, I don't think that's really
That's not right?
You have to-
Okay, that's fine.
decide to agendize this item or not.
You have the whole thing in the comment.
Okay.
This is the comment. What I just gave you is the comment.
Okay.
I move that we agendize this for our next meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Takes care of that one.
Okay, City of Brisbane's plan to comply with state drought emergency water conservation regulations. Here we are blessed with civil engineer Jerry Flanagan.
So we've asked Mr. Flanagan to speak to the committee tonight to have you be informed and to publicize information about the state requirements related to the drought, because the city's starting to put information out, and this came up at the last meeting, and there's a lot of nuance to what we're required to do, what we've been required to do in the past, and how we implement those requirements. So he's our expert, and I'm going to hand it over.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you tonight. I will give a brief overview of the events leading up to the recent adoption of the state's emergency conservation regulation, and then speak more specifically to these recent regulations. On January 17th of 2014, Governor Brown proclaimed a state of emergency due to the projected drought conditions and called upon everyone to reduce their water use by 20%. This triggered San Francisco PUC, that's our water wholesaler, on January 31st, 2014, to declare a voluntary 10% reduction in water use by all its 26 wholesale customers. The regional response from this 10% voluntary reduction has been very good. We've reached well over 10% of our goal. So San Francisco had no reason to declare any mandatory reductions. Following this, on April 25th of 2014, the governor issued an executive order directing the State Water Resources Control Board to adopt emergency regulations to ensure that the urban water suppliers were implementing conservation measures in response to the drought. On July 28, 2014, the emergency regulations to increase water conservation practices for the state went into effect, prohibiting certain outdoor water uses. These you probably have seen. washing down driveways and sidewalks with potable water, causing runoff as a result of excess outdoor watering, using a hose to wash a motor vehicle unless the hose is fitted with a shut-off nozzle, and using potable water in a fountain or decorative water feature unless the water is recirculated. In response to these actions, the city prepared a water shortage contingency plan that established 4 levels of drought response actions. The City Council adopted this water shortage contingency plan in association with Ordinance 589 on September 2nd, 2014. Also on September 2nd, 2014, the city's Director of Public Works determined that Stage 1 drought response measures should be implemented to be in compliance with both the San Francisco's voluntary 10% reduction request and the State Water Resources Control Board's order. After that, the staff, we focused on public education and encouraging our customers to comply with these existing regulations with pretty good success. As a whole, I feel the community responded well to the conservation measures that have been established in 2014. So this brings us to the recently adopted water conservation regulations. As everybody knows, on April 1st of 2015, so when the governor issued the executive order directing the State Water Resources Control Board to impose the restrictions on water suppliers to achieve a statewide 25% reduction in potable urban usage through February 2016. That's an aggregate statewide 25% reduction. On May 6th of 2015, the State Water Resources Control Board adopted the emergency regulations, and the regulations became effective on May 18th. The emergency regulations established a tiered water use reductions for urban water suppliers based on their average residential gallons per capita per day for the period of July through September of 2014. And these tiers, they were set up to help the agencies that were doing a good job with conservation in the past. They were rewarding them for setting lower reductions. So the lowest tier that they set was an 8% reduction, and this would be for an urban water supplier whose average residential gallons per capita per day was less than 65. And the highest of the 8 tiers is a 36% reduction. So that's an agency that's using over 215 gallons per capita per day. And to give you an idea, Brisbane, over that same period of time, July to September of 2014, we're at 47. So it shows we're on the far low of this level of this of these tiers.
Who was at 215?
There's even higher than 215.
You're kidding.
There's actually
Palm Springs.
Yeah, they're down south, Southern California. There's a few in the 300s, and I believe there's.
And I'm sorry, the lowest tier was to 45 or 50.
65 gallons per capita per day and under.
Great.
So we're far below that.
Good.
The State Water Resources Control Board actually didn't apply these tiers to small water suppliers. Brisbane falls, the state defines Brisbane as a small water supplier. The definition of a small water supplier is if you have 3,000 connections or less, or deliver 3,000 acre feet per year. So we're far below that. So what the emergency water conservation states for a small water supplier, such as Brisbane, we have a different set of compliance measures. We have to comply by either limiting outdoor irrigation of ornamental landscapes or turf with potable water to no more than 2 days per week, or reduce by 25% of our total potable water production relative to the amount produced in 2013. So they gave us 2 options, no tiers, just these 2 options. The 25% reduction is an unrealistic goal for our city, a city of our size with such a low per capita use. So some of the regulations I'll get to, you'll see that we've applied the first measure, the restricting outdoor water use to 2 days a week. So where do we stand now? The updated emergency water conservation regulations that our public must comply with is outdoor irrigation of ornamental landscape or turf with potable water will now be restricted to 2 days per week. And the following actions are also prohibited. Applying potable water to outdoor landscapes during and within 48 hours of measurable rainfall, irrigating outdoor landscapes between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m., watering of landscapes that results in runoff outside the landscaped area. Some of these you've probably seen. Using potable water to wash sidewalks, driveways, and any hardscape. Using a hose with no automatic shut-off nozzle to wash vehicles. And using the potable water in a decorative water feature without a recirculating system. So you see some of these are identical to what we have seen in 2014.
Do they define the measurable rainfall?
That's a great question. No, they don't define it. So it's up to us to decide what was a realistic definition of that. In addition, serving drinking water other than upon request in eating and drinking establishments is prohibited. Hotels and motels must offer guests the option of not laundering towels and linens daily. The city is prohibited from using potable water to irrigate ornamental turf on public street medians, which is that action has been done. We're currently not watering the medians. And the new home landscape irrigation must comply with Building Standards Commission and Department of Housing and Community Development requirements. So as far as public education and enforcement, for the next month, the city staff will be reaching out to the public on understanding these new compliance measures through various media sources and community outreach. This is what we typically do. We do a lot of public education. We give our citizens the opportunity to learn, what's required before we go out and enforce. We give them usually a month of just kind of ramping up to these strict requirements. Our primary focus, of our attention, will be on the dedicated landscape accounts and our commercial outdoor water use, which together, our outdoor irrigation accounts are approximately 42% of our total water use. So that's something that it's logical to target that. We can't target residential indoor use. That's so low. So that's, we see outdoor landscape as the opportunity for us to save water.
Excuse me, could you, do you know what some of the larger uses for outdoor water are? I mean, is it like the office parks in Sierra Point, or where's the water being used in that?
Sierra Point, the HOAs, which we've been doing a good job with managing their water use.
Is that like the Ridge?
The Ridge?
Yep.
Sorry? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Northeast Ridge. And a lot of the Crocker businesses along Valley Drive, South Hill, they have those big...
And what about our own ball fields?
Ball fields, yeah, park. Yeah. Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
What is being done with these businesses to limit their water usage?
Turn on your...
What is being done with these businesses to limit their water usage? Is it simply the 2-day irrigation schedule?
Correct.
Because one thing that I've noticed driving late in the evening or walking my dog is that we continue to walk the streets, the sidewalks, and the asphalt on the street, so nothing has been done in terms of changing the irrigation system to make sure we don't waste water by half of it going on the asphalt, or when it's windy, pretty much the wind is blowing the water on the parking lot in the Crocker Park or on the street. So is there any plan to do something about the irrigation system, because it wastes a lot of water? I see it every day when the sprinklers are running.
Yeah, and we welcome the public to come to us, notify us when they see irrigated water on the sidewalks and the streets. That's one of our restrictions. So what we'll do is, if we get a call, which we have, people do call us quite often, we'll go out and we'll talk to that customer. So please call us, contact Public Works, and let us know if you see, if you see some excess water outside that lane.
We know that the current sprinkler systems water the streets, so is there a plan to do something about that, or is it we're just going to address it on a per account basis? Because it's happening everywhere along Very Drive, along Park Place here, a lot of places. So
A lot at Sierra Point, at the Sierra Point.
yeah, it's simply the current sprinkler system. I mean, half of it waters the streets, so it's the way it works today.
I don't know if there's another way to address it than beyond with each individual property manager, owner, whoever the case is.
Well, drip
They're
irrigation
responsible.
is certainly more effective than sprinkling in terms of water conservation.
Right.
And, I think you still have some lawns, and if we're going to continue in a drought, maybe that's going to change. The city's looking at seeing what lawns they can change to drought-tolerant plants, but if people have a business and have a lawn, they don't kill that lawn necessarily until they have to. So, you can't really drip a lawn, I don't think.
No, you can't.
Sure, I have underground lines for my sod area.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Jerry, how much water is used in dust mitigation measures at both the quarry and at the soils processing and the soils recycling places?
Your mic is
Oh, yeah, it's on. I'm not talking very loud. They probably turned it down. So how much water is being used there, and is that potable water they're using for that?
Yeah, I don't have that information.
Okay. That's another source of a lot of water use.
I was just going to say to that, the Chronicle has reported they are using potable water at Candlestick, and they're doing it for health reasons. People have complained, and so the response was they're doing it for health reasons, so I'm assuming they're probably doing the same thing here. I don't know that, though.
Yeah, I think last time this came up, it is usually potable water, just because, unfortunately, if you
That's
spray
what there is.
something around that isn't, then you might have problems down the road. So, yeah, and that's what they can get.
So are we still bleeding I assume we still bleed the system because of the chloramamine that we use, our water system?
Yes, as needed.
And that just goes down the drain, right?
Yes, we do, where feasible, we'll try to collect it, but in general, and we do limit the amount of flushing that we have to do in the system, but at times it's necessary to.
So maybe it's time we thought outside the box a little bit and maybe got a water storage system so that we can capture that water and then treat it appropriately and use it for irrigation.
Yeah, I think.
Or also where people could go and fill up water for irrigation.
The problem we have in Brisbane is the areas that need the flushing are in the higher areas where it's difficult to get resources up there, and the flushing is done at a high velocity. So it just makes it very difficult to get the right resources to to collect the water. It's certainly we continue to look at our options, but it just doesn't seem feasible in most cases.
It seems like it wouldn't be maybe I'm naive, but it seems like even that you're flushing at a high level, there are certainly areas they must be accessible by a fire truck, correct? And if that's the case, then they might be accessible by, you know, those tanks you see on water trucks.
Yeah, the water truck.
And I mean, if Brisbane invested in one of those, it would be portable. You could maybe flush in directly into the tank, and then, you know, have one of those lifts where you can go and store the tank, and then have another tank that you can put on and go flush the system. I mean, we're going to have to start looking at things like this because we are not going to have a guaranteed supply of water going into the future. And I brought this up years ago, and I still think that we really need to do that. And now the need is greater than ever. And if we're going to continue to have any kind of landscaping that we're going to be watering on a regular basis, I know we need a certain amount of water going through the system to flush this, you know, the whole system out, and the sewer systems. But still, I think that water could be put to better use if we could capture some of it.
Yeah, let me just say that since the drought, since 2013, really, we've ceased the full flushing of our systems. We do targeted dead ends. So it's very limited volume that we're flushing, and it's at the ends and end of the lines.
I guess, how much would you say you're flushing?
Yeah.
How about a better question? How much have you reduced of water that you're flushing? What
No,
percentage?
I think how much we're
Yeah, because every day when I take a shower, first the bucket goes into the shower, and while it's getting hot, the bucket fills up, and then I sit it there, and then the next morning I take that bucket and I go out and water with it, and then put the bucket back. And so 2 gallons is a lot of water for it.
Yeah.
And goes a long way. So it's all relative. And if there was a place to go and get water for gardening, you know, I mean, people would be more inclined to like have a barrel that they could keep it in to water with and that type of thing. That's all that I'm saying is that you could actually go around and fill up people's rain barrels if you had a portable water supply like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point we take the suggestion. It's received. I mean, it's one of those things, and we can talk about it with the environmental action plan. Everything costs money, and we have to choose which things we spend money on. But water is a limited commodity, so you know, at this point, I don't think Jerry can say, okay, I'll start that program or not. But the suggestion,
Come on, Jerry,
you're giving the suggestion to the right person. Let's say that.
Especially, I mean, that water could easily be used for dust mitigation measures and put the onus on those people who already own the truck to come and collect the water in the meanwhile.
Yeah, they've already got water trucks. And in the meantime, as we're thinking about this, I would like some estimates on how much water is being purged from the system in raw units. I really would, if that's possible. Because if we're talking about 100 gallons, maybe not. But if we're talking about, 10,000 gallons over the course of the year, then we're going to respond to that differently.
Yeah,
Which is why I'm not necessarily interested in the reduction, because whatever happened before is whatever happened before.
And we applaud you for it.
Yes, we applaud you for the reduction. We want to know what we're left with.
And okay, we'll get you that
Thank
relative
you.
to how much water we use.
Purge.
I said we'll get you that relative to how much we use, because it is more than 100 gallons, but we use whatever the number is per year.
Get a good
Yeah.
overview of what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say how much we've already saved is an important number because it'll also give us an idea of how much there might be left to save. If we've already saved, let's say 80%, then we might be, approaching a point of diminishing returns in terms of the resources needed to save an additional 5 off that original, So I think getting all those numbers would be helpful. Thank you.
I had a couple more questions, but I'd like to know if anybody else on the committee had questions. Okay. So I believe our water handout that we hand out at the Community Day in the park, says that Brisbane averages 30 gallons per person per day. And I'm wondering if that discrepancy is just that the flyer is out of date, or was it inaccurate to begin with, Or have we really gone up 17 gallons per person per day?
I'm going to jump in. I doubt that we've gone up 17, and I don't know what the flyer said, but we can definitely check into that.
And, maybe my memory's wrong, so
Yeah.
if you can just pull that flyer, Natalie, and then we can decide whether or not we've got a question there. Is that okay? Thank you.
Optimistically, we'd hope that people are doing better these days than.
Yes, I hope so. Go ahead, Glenn.
So a couple things on public education. Composting is supposed to help soil retain water, and I've noticed that since I've been applying compost to my yard, it does seem to be doing better with low water. So I wonder if the city is including measures like that in its public education plan. And there's also, I've been reading about this, I don't know a lot about it, the use of oyas, unfired ceramic containers that you can bury in a garden that actually are kind of a drip irrigation system for plants. And it might be great if, for people who like to garden, if the water department would look into some things like that, maybe publicize them, or maybe it would be even possible to get them to people at a discount. Compost and oyas and things like that, to encourage people to adopt these as permanent measures and make it a little bit less onerous.
You mean compost bins? Compost containers? Those are good ideas. That's exactly what we look to you guys to give suggestions to us about, because I've not heard of oyas before. And send us the information and we'll.
Yeah.
I can't pinpoint a place exactly where I read it, but it's.
I read about it too.
Yeah, I read about it
a couple times.
And
I was at the Maker Fair over the weekend and went to their little sort of, they had a big pavilion that was about farming, and it was pretty interesting. And they had some oyas there, but they were really expensive. They were like $30 for a small one, and I'm just sure that somewhere they're cheaper than that, because they're basically unfired, unglazed ceramic or terracotta containers, like planters. They're just sort of vases. And so if any way could be found to get people those at a discount, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, they had them at the Green Festival last year.
Oh, did they?
And they were.
Remember how much?
Yeah, they were $30.
Wow.
Yeah, I've also been hearing about this for a while, and I'm sorry it didn't come to my brain sooner. But they're supposed to be even more efficient than drip irrigation, and I was looking for some online, and they were $50 a piece. And that does you, just much space of your yard. You're like, I'm going to need about 50 of those.
So, Jerry, when you get the water truck, can you also start a kiln so we can make our own?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if it's realistic to think that we could get them, at a discount, but it might be worth looking into.
I mean, you're right, Glenn. How much can an unglazed jug cost?
Well, they're large.
large.
They hold about 2 gallons.
Yeah.
And so the larger the vessel, the harder it is to make and not have it crack in firing. Yeah. And it has to have a small opening, and so they're not easy to make.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay. It doesn't seem like they're $30 or $50 difficult.
Do you have any artists in this town that are into doing that kind of?
Something you're going to bury in the ground?
Well, I don't mean that. You know what I mean. There's always people that are not artists.
All right. We've got a tight agenda, so do we have anything else for?
Can I just add one final
Please.
statement? It's important to note our enforcement schedule for this 2-day-a-week outdoor irrigation. The cities will be enforcing the addresses ending in an odd number will be allowed to water on Monday and Thursdays. And the addresses ending in an even number may water Tuesdays and Fridays.
And that's for residential as well?
Yes. And then the sites with no address number are also on Monday and Thursday. So will help the city enforce the 2 days.
Does that include like car washing and things like that as well?
That was the other thing.
No, the car washing, that's the other.
It's just landscaping.
Right, correct.
How does enforcement happen?
So we'll have staff going around the city. And again, we're targeting the Crocker Park, the commercial, and the dedicated landscape.
Right.
We're certainly not targeting residential. So, most of our efforts, most of our focus will be down in the commercial section of town, Sierra Point, Crocker.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We should also maybe put out some information on where the nearest more than one recycled car washes are.
We have coupons for them out in the lobby.
Yeah, because I drive through this, do the little drive-through thing. My car looks like hell, but
I washed my car over 10 years ago last time.
that's about the last time I washed my car.
I mean, the best way of washing it is not washing it.
Yeah, every once in a while I have to hose it off so I can see.
So I'm just going to add one last thing, because Karen and I have argued about this in the past, and this is about car washing. And as far as I'm concerned, a car should be considered hardscape because it is not absorbent. And also, you're not supposed to, so you can wash your car, but you can't let it go down the storm drain, right? And exactly how well does that work? So I think we should just, please, can we just prohibit car washing? Okay, I've said it. Thank you.
I agree.
That's fine.
The only problem with prohibiting car washing is when your car gets so much junk built up on it, the public recycling washes don't do a good enough job. They don't get it clean.
Well,
They don't get it clean.
I've never had a problem with them, but I guess that's me. I
Your
don't know.
car's not dirty enough like mine.
Yeah, I guess I go more than once every 10 years. I go about once a year to recycled car wash. Okay, is anything else? Can we move on?
Thank you so
Sorry
much
to
for
rush
coming, Jerry.
Jerry, thank you very much.
Flanagan.
Sorry to put you on the hot seat.
We did, but that's what we do here.
Bathwater, you guys, bathwater. That's what I wash mine with.
Yeah, there you go. Or something from the rain barrel. So, review of the draft Baylands sustainability framework. I'm going to apologize to you all up front and say I wrote out 6 pages. So I think everybody else should go first. And then, if you want to leave the room and take a bathroom break while I'm prattling, that's okay. I won't be offended.
Can we start with, since Glenn is on the committee, a little bit of an intro and her thoughts on what's evolved to this point?
So this committee consists of 2 members of the City Council, myself representing Open Space, representative of from the Planning Commission, from PB&R. Clay Holstein's been coming. I think that's all. It's been a fairly sizable committee, and we've been meeting now for off and on for I think 3 years. So the 2 to 3 years. It's been quite an extended process, and we've the drafting of this document has been done by a consultant. I mean, we have met with her and tell her more or less what we want, and she comes back with a draft, and we critique it, and then she comes back with another draft, and that's how the process has proceeded. The design of this document, and let me underline, it's a framework, meaning that it is let's call it a living document, and it is supposed to provide guidance for construction on the Baylands. And at the core are really a set of principles called the One Planet Principles. And what these principles are all about is environmental footprint. Is everybody on the committee familiar with the footprint concept? Yes. Essentially, it's the idea that everyone on Earth, if you divided the Earth's resources equally, the Earth's sustainable resources equally, what everybody would be entitled to. And so the One Planet principles are intended to ensure that new development is compatible with resource use and pollution emissions that are within the capabilities of our planet. All right, and most development that we've had in the United States has not been. And so there are 10 principles, and for each principle, We've identified a set of key performance indicators and also made a number of suggestions about how to implement these principles in the actual process of construction and use of the Baylands. So that's really how the document is designed. And I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. I'm hoping that people have. But I'll just go through the principles quickly, which are on page 2: zero carbon buildings, zero waste, sustainable transportation, local and sustainable materials, local and sustainable food, sustainable water, protecting open space and habitat, protecting culture and heritage, economic vitality with equity and ecology, and health, safety, and happiness. So it's a fairly comprehensive set of principles that is intended to apply to all aspects of the development, both when it's built and when it is operating. So I feel like stopping there, and maybe if people have questions, I can try to answer them.
I have a question.
Sure.
Any questions for Glenn?
I perused the document, skimmed through it, and read what parts jumped out at me, interested me the most. But at the very beginning was something that kind of bothered me a little bit, and that was that there's no enforcement. So it's a great guidelines, it's a great idea, but how do we get, so we open up the Baylands and people start building out there, how do we get them to actually follow this?
Actually, there are some enforcement provisions in this document. In various parts of the document, you'll see, if you read it carefully, there are principles for measuring and monitoring. There's we've specified that funding for enforcement and monitoring and maintenance ought to be included in the project. And so, as I said, they're principles, right? It's not written yet.
The first page it said it was not enforceable. They were just recommendations.
Would these things be in, some of these principles be included and requirements be included in a development agreement possibly?
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Okay. Right. That was the point of the exercise. You know, development is being contemplated for the Baylands, and so we did this as an aspirational document, but also one that would inform an agreement that the city makes with the developer.
Yeah, so once it's in a development agreement, then I believe it's enforceable.
Yeah, I mean, this particular document isn't.
Okay, so we could use this as something to become enforceable.
Yes. Yeah, so that rather than try to do this on an ad hoc basis when when you're writing the development agreement, you sort of write it out ahead of time and say to the developer, this is how we want the development to go, but it's not an agreement.
Yeah.
So does that answer it?
Yeah. Time will tell.
Any other questions for Glenn?
No, but just a comment on that. One of the reasons that it's not a set of laws that are enforceable is that what Glenn said, it's a living document, and since it's a changing environment technologically and socially and everything else, that if it was a law, it would have to be constantly being updated to keep up with technology. Whereas if it's a framework and guidelines, then each agreement can be approached on what is the most current. So, for example, right now we have buildings that have development agreements out at Sierra Point that don't meet this, and won't meet this because this framework wasn't there then, and they have a less than stellar, green development agreement with us. So if we have this framework in place, then each time we approach a new development, we can use this as our guideline and say, well, current state is you need to meet, LEED what's ever higher than platinum, titanium, diamond, whatever the current thing is. And in some cases, the current thing will be, sorry, you can't meet it, you can't build it.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean,
I know every time they do, development, redevelopment projects, they almost invariably turn out poorly.
Yeah, and it's tragic because we just keep squandering and squandering and squandering until we pass sustainability limits that we're never going to be able to go back on, and it'll just I'll be
Which
removed.
is getting closer and closer.
Yeah. Don't get me started. I'm in a negative mood about that today.
It's not enough sun, that's all.
All right. Any more questions for Glenn, or do we want to actually start discussing the document?
I just have one comment. From reading through some of the sections, like energy and zero waste, I didn't see in these sections as much focus on how can we reduce waste or usage, but more focus on how can we generate energy in a different way, or how can we recycle waste in a way to get to 0% to landfill. But at the same time, reading later in the food section, it talks about go boxes and like reusable containers. To me, it seems like there should be a little bit more focus on how can we reduce usage so that we don't need as much energy, and also how can we reduce waste so that we don't need all this vacuum tubing system for, disposing of waste, because if we use more reusable containers and there is not so much single-use disposable containers, we wouldn't need to recycle as much waste. So it seemed to me that there is a need a little bit more for a more responsible usage of things, and that could complement then the more efficient energy generation or waste recycling. But I was wondering how the committee looked at it.
Well, I think we felt pretty much similarly, and we felt that we had done that where we could. So, for example, I have an older version of this than you guys. I just had it printed out already, so I brought it. But under the summary approach on building, the first paragraph says, building design in the Baylands will emphasize passive reductions in energy loads first. So this is an example of, an approach to usage that says first you reduce waste, right? First you reduce use. As far as food waste is concerned, there's kind of a limited amount we can do as far as restaurants, right? And go containers and things like that. I mean,
And what a simple example that I have is, even today in the Madhouse Cafe, when you go for coffee, even if you're sitting in a coffee shop, they'll still give you a disposable cup. And to me, that's a waste which, we could address today. But obviously for the balance, I think we can require, like coffee shops, restaurants could be using, ceramic, reusable cups and plates.
Madhouse is always giving me a ceramic cup when I've asked for it.
If you ask for it, yeah, they'll give it to you. But yeah.
So there's a balance, because one of the problems is using a ceramic cup means that then you have to wash it and sterilize it, and we have a drought. Bringing your own container, they cannot take your container into their kitchen because of the possibilities of foodborne viruses. So there are a lot of constrictions, especially as the population gets more dense and more intense, and people come from more places where, you don't want to put the population at risk with any kind of pandemic because of unsanitary conditions created by the crowding that you have. And so a lot of restaurants, like, we go to this one restaurant where we know we're going to take home half of what we've eaten because they always serve too much. So we bring our own to-go containers, but they won't ever put it in there for us. We have to do that ourselves.
You have to do it yourself.
And I know that, when I cook breakfast at the yacht club, I won't take anybody's plate that they've already handled to serve from because I'm handling food. So I always get a clean plate and serve from a clean plate because I don't want to spread any germs. And so that's one of the challenges that we face in our society with sanitation and recycled materials versus bringing your own container. And so everything's a balance. Like, we had this big debate about recycled paper. Well, the dioxin you use to bleach all the paper, is that worse than just using new pulp? Mm-hmm. Everything is a give and take. And one of the things that I did like that I've seen in this document is that it doesn't just address zero waste on site here. It kind of addresses it from the source, which I liked that. So I think it, in some ways it has been addressed as best as possible under the circumstances.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a tough one because, part of you wants to say, yeah, let's just bring our own containers. And the other part of you is like, this is a huge germ carrier. And if you're not careful, you'll get really sick.
Does anybody else have anything to add to that? So does anybody else want to say something on the other end of the bench?
Yeah, I do have a question. I'm not sure whether this is directed at Glenn or as a comment, but I noticed there was a section talking about the green building ordinance, and I was wondering whether that was taking into account the updates to Title 24, because it seemed like it might be the old or the previous version, and I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Yeah, the last time we met, which was a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
I noted and other members of the committee noted several places where this document needed to be updated, and that's one of them. There were a couple things about this document mentions that Brisbane is participating in the bag ban, but it doesn't mention that we've also adopted the polystyrene ban.
Oh, we have?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That is news to me as someone who patronizes several of the local ethnic restaurants. Every time I go to said ethnic restaurants, I am served my takeout food in a styrofoam container. So news of
You've been notified.
News of a supposed law is welcome, but a bit of a surprise.
I think it's the county that has to enforce
Yeah,
that.
not to stray too far off topic, but we did get a couple reports and we forwarded them to the county, and they said they would follow up.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And really, I was asking more about the green building ordinance. So it's noted. If you already raised that, then my issues are addressed.
Yeah, but things like that happen all the time. For example, Jerry Brown a couple weeks ago just issued an executive order that upped the that set another intermediate timeline for greenhouse gas reduction for the state of California for 2030. There hadn't been a target for 2030. There was a target for 2020, and then there was a target for 2050, and nothing between.
Right.
So he issued a target for 2030, which is 40% below 1990 levels, which is going to be a hard target to hit. But that's not in here either because it just happened a couple weeks ago.
Okay,
So,
well, that's the living document.
We're
part.
sort of aware of the problem. And part of the problem with this is, our meetings have been, there'll be a flurry of meetings and there'll be nothing for a long time. And so then we look at the document again. And
Okay.
so I am aware of it. And anything that you guys notice, let me know.
Okay. Yeah, that was my primary comment regarding the
You're right.
the framework.
And it also needs some edits.
And it also needs a table of contents.
Okay. Are you guys taking this down as notes? I mean, do I need to be taking notes? We need to get our comments, I guess, to the council. So what's going to be our procedure for doing that?
I would suggest if people are making comments that they can email them to me, and I can compile them and send them to you, because I don't go to those committee meetings. I don't attend those.
Well, but we're making comments now. I wonder if you could take notes, just jot them down.
I think it's best, since if I don't misconstrue people's words, if they type them and send them to me.
Index.
So will everybody do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally have a strong feeling one way or the other, but maybe it would be good if both the comment maker and Natalie took some brief notes so that if something gets missed, we have a way of double checking. Does that sound reasonable?
Did this committee ask for kind of a general approval of this document, or I'm trying to remember now, or we're just reviewing it? Do you recall?
I think Glenn's going to need to answer this because I read the email, but I don't recall.
What's the question?
The procedural question, are we supposed to, we're supposed to talk about it tonight and then form a subcommittee and officially forward from the subcommittee to the, okay.
So they're having a council study session, that's right, on the 15th. Are they asking for our approval of this as far as it's gone, or are they asking for comments, or?
Comments.
Okay.
Okay.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, I think the email said that the comments are due by June 3rd in order to be incorporated in the document that we shared with the public by June 15th.
Thank you, that's right.
I do seem to remember something in there about a subcommittee meeting that we're going to need to have.
No, that was your thought about whether OSEC wanted to form a subcommittee to study this more, or whether we could handle it at this meeting.
Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest that we make that we have a subcommittee meeting to make sure that at least make sure all the comments got coherently compiled before it goes. No, we will need to form a subcommittee. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to continue on with comments? Any preference?
Let's hear your comments, and then we can do it.
Okay, let's continue on with comments. Megan.
I only perused it briefly, so I have no comments.
And Michelle, do you have further comments?
Not right now.
Okay. Any more comments from the other end?
Oh, I like it.
Y'all are going to hang me out to dry.
I like it.
That's right.
I wish it was more enforceable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish it was more enforceable.
I think we'll get there. My first comment was, this is my own fault because I got a paper copy from the city, but this paper is like the Cadillac paper. And I just wanted to say this underscores so violently the need for an environmental purchasing policy at the city, because I think probably twice as many trees died for this document as is necessary.
Probably not. It probably just has, it's just
It's
the way
really,
it's processed.
it's really thick paper, and it doesn't feel that kind of gritty feeling that recycled paper usually has. So anyway.
We don't manage the copy machines, but I believe I've heard that you need to have a certain thickness
Yeah.
of paper with our copy machines.
Okay.
Not jam.
All right, so.
For the color copier, you do.
That's what's wrong with my copy machine. Why it's always jamming.
Well, it's too nice. That's just my opinion.
Too nice.
It's too nice.
Let's get on with the comments.
Okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because anyway, never mind. My second comment is, wow, this is a really wonderful document, and I don't want any of my other comments to obscure that. It was definitely much more refreshing than trying to read the DEIR. It made me, I think it was, my compliments go out to all of the committee members and to the consultant. And then I had some small things and some sort of overarching things. My first thing was a small thing. Page 8, second full paragraph, consider replacing significant with catastrophic. If climate change continues unchecked, we could be looking at a loss of 50% of the Earth's productivity. Assuming that we leave nature intact, that would be catastrophic for humanity. I just felt that the language was not strong enough, and I just pulled up some data about for every 1 degree rise in global temperature, there is a 10% decrease in crop yields and ocean yields. So, I mean, I think we're looking at trying to hold it down to, and I think that's Celsius. I think it's 0.5% or 5% for each degree Fahrenheit. Yeah. But even so, if we're trying to keep the temperature rise in like 3 or 4 degrees, I mean, that could be 30 to 40% loss of productivity. So I really felt that a stronger language was needed there, and that was just my personal opinion. The committee can do with it as they like. And I have the references that I pulled off of the internet here, and I will give this. Natalie has a copy, and she can forward it if you like. More things about that. My fourth comment, page 8. And it doesn't necessarily even have to go on page 8, but I felt this document would in some way benefit from mentioning deforestation. Deforestation and forest degradation through agriculture, conversion to pasture land, infrastructure development, destructive logging fires accounts for nearly 20% of total global greenhouse gas emissions. And I'm not sure exactly where that fits into a sustainability framework for the Baylands document. However, I think it would be shame to leave it out entirely because a great deal of wood will be used inevitably during this construction process and will feed into this. And if there's any possible impetus for adding trees somewhere along the line, I know it's the landfill and we have to be very careful about that cap, but I felt that it was just a shame to completely miss that problem. Does anybody else want to say anything about that?
Well, definitely deforestation's a problem, especially with the ongoing construction.
Yeah.
So I think it doesn't hurt to mention it. I don't think they're going to be planting trees on the Baylands because of the cap.
Yeah.
Or if they are, they'll be in containers.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they will.
Maybe they will.
Maybe trees would be the best thing for cleaning up the Baylands.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Did I skip something? No, okay. Page 13, item 3. My personal preference would be to switch D and C. I think forming a CCA is preferable in terms of mitigation to outsourcing renewable energy. Do the committee members have any feelings about that? Is it because that particular less says in order of acceptance?
I agree with that because it really needs to be on site.
Okay. And then my sixth little comment here was about zero waste, and I wanted to bounce an anecdote off of my poor committee members here. Recently, we had some work done at our house, and the workers had ready access to the garbage, recycling, and green waste. I found plastic packaging in the green waste, food and soda cans in the garbage, and wood scraps in the plastic recycling. It made me crazy.
Maybe that was their intent.
Maybe it was some passive-aggressive thing on the part of them. So, my perception is that homeowners are very responsible, but for some reason, and this is a perception thing, and maybe people can have different perceptions and can shed different lights on this, but I feel like employees do not feel like proper waste disposal is in their job description and may be reluctant to use their employer's time or their customers' money actually taking care of things properly. It seems like it's much easier for them to just toss it, and maybe they recycle at home, and they just don't feel like it's part of their job. So I didn't have any direct thing I wanted to say about that, but I think addressing business waste is key to zero waste.
Someplace in this document, and I don't remember where, but I do remember bringing it up, is training for workers.
Okay.
Because I actually had a student who was already an accomplished green building consultant, and he worked on projects in San Francisco, and one of the things that he talked about was the importance of training workers, and that should certainly be part of their training. And if they're going to manage the construction waste properly, they need to be trained. So I will try to find it in here, and it certainly wouldn't hurt to mention it more than once.
Yeah, it should be mentioned more than once, and there again, if there was any kind of mechanism to ensure some level of enforcement, that would be good. I mean, at our company, we have the 3 little bins, and I mean, do people not realize that some of those things aren't organic? I mean, and that the banana peel should go in the organic waste?
I'll tell you, it's so nice they actually have the bins that they actually show pictures.
We
Kinda
do
like
too.
Yeah. And people are still not throwing it.
Yeah. I'm just like, it blows me away.
We have a 3-bin system at San Francisco State, and we have tried everything. We have had students standing by those bins, to try to get people to use the 3 bins. We have pictures. We have color codes. It's, I don't know to what extent we can solve this problem in the Baylands, but clearly worker training is going to be part of it. It's important, and I think we should mention it probably a couple of times.
In Tokyo, you get fined if you don't do it right. At your home, at your work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing how difficult it is to get people to do it.
So there is another way of approaching the problem, and that's post-collection sorting, because they have to do it anyway, because nobody, for example, when we have our recycling here in Brisbane, they don't care what side of the trash can you put your paper or your bottles on, because they have people at Blue Line Transfer sitting manually looking and pulling things off, and they're going to have to do that even if everybody in Brisbane separated their trash. Now in San Francisco, recycling is sorted after they pick it up, so you have one recycle bin and everything gets sorted by Recology.
Not the organics.
I don't know. I moved out of San Francisco before the organics thing happened. So
Compost is separate.
yeah, okay. So just the sorting of the paper and the
Yeah, because if you get food waste all over your paper, it's no longer.
yeah, fair point. But yeah. So I mean, it's just one option of instead of Anyways.
Yeah, we argued about that a lot at home until Dan dragged me out into the street one Friday morning and said, "Look, it all goes in the same hole."
Yep.
There's a divider there, and most of it goes one way, and most of it goes to the other side.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's 100%.
Yeah, so like I looked at the Blue Line Transfer.
I actually talked to Barbara Bernardini about this.
Okay.
They do. They have a divider, and they do have the post.
They do sort it at the station.
I kind of believe, I don't know if anyone else does, that it's going to be cheaper. If we're all doing it at the source, it's not going to cost us so much for garbage.
That's
The
right.
less sorting that they have to do, the less cost. So education is the key to get more people.
But it's not residential. It's even when Barbara Bernardini was here and they were talking about diversion rates, it's the businesses that are really falling behind. So we need to, and maybe we need to talk about post-collection sorting for the Baylands contract. I don't know, but it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this horse dead?
Yes.
Okay. In the transit section, I would love to see roundabouts mentioned. There's a number of studies about how they save fuel and time, so. And safety, and they're much safer. So let's, if it's a new development, we've got space to make roundabouts, let's think about it. So Riot for Austerity's goal for fuel consumption is 50 gallons per person per year, or about 6 miles round trip per workday in a 30 mile per gallon vehicle. To me, this is a very clear goal. However, I'm somewhat confused by the goal as stated on page 33. Is driving to work considered under business-related CO2 or commercial CO2? Or how do visits to grandma or the grocery store? Is this a separate, different category of, is there a personal allotment for transportation? I was just very confused by this paragraph, and I think all of you who have been reading it a million times probably understand it implicitly, but it lost me. So.
This is the commute. I mean,
Yeah.
what we're addressing in here is the commute.
Okay.
And that's kind of all we can do
Mm-hmm.
in a framework for a development is talk about the commute.
Okay.
And then design the things so that commuters can at least pick up what they need, before they go home.
You know, one thing that would make it more readable is to break it up into smaller paragraphs. That's one massive block.
Or a
of text.
table,
Page
or I don't
33.
know.
Okay.
Yeah. People will take one look at that and just go, I can't read that, and then move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the answer is because I'm not sure what it's getting at. It lost me.
Natalie, could you hit Control Plus a couple times?
There.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then sort of continuing to talk about transportation on the next page. People must live within 4 miles, or 8-mile round trip to stay on target, assuming that public transportation and carpooling continue not to be widely adopted. Then husband and wife have to have jobs within 8 miles of each other and 4 miles of home. Furthermore, childcare must be found within this radius, or maybe not, because you said that doesn't include personal stuff, like shopping. And I think that this just goes to illustrate
Unrealistic.
why, no, I mean, it's realistic because it has to be realistic. It's based on facts. But why this transportation has been such a impossible thing to get under control. Like why it's just been so hard to get people to live where they work and not drive 26 miles. Yeah.
Well, I mean, is that a rhetorical question? Because I'd love to live across the street from where I work, but the houses are about twice as expensive there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep.
And I would hate to live across the street from where I work because it's icky.
Would you like to have work across the street from you?
That would, no. Close though. Walking distance would be nice.
4 miles would be,
I walk.
This isn't something that we can solve in the Baylands, and actually, it is a powerful argument for housing in the Baylands.
Yeah.
But that one is kind of a non-starter in Brisbane.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, when you look at transportation hubs and the whole idea of high density, transit friendly housing is for that reason, is, to put people next to their work so that they don't have to take transportation to come in. So.
Except that it doesn't happen that way.
Except it doesn't happen that way.
Sure, I know. But it's.
When I was working on the DEIR, I found a very interesting article about transportation, and it talked a lot about the fact that it's hard enough if you assume a traditional wage earner plus stay-at-home parent type family to get people to to have people located close to where they work. But if you have two people working, it's damn near impossible. And childcare and school choice and people trying to send their kid to the right school and having their choices influenced by overall goals for schooling, such as, diversity in the student body and things like that. It's really tough. And so the answer is, I don't know. I think the answer is reduced work week plus better transit. But we can't solve either one of those in the Baylands. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard because your jobs change. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, you're not in a job for 30 years anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like that.
So not necessarily on the Baylands, but I would like to once again put forth the idea of company housing, because I think that's the only way employees are ever going to be able to live near their workplace. So I don't know if the company housing would be directly outside of the Baylands or what, but I feel, and not everybody who works there would have to take company housing, but I think it's the only way we're ever going to get these 94% reduction in transit emissions. I don't think there's I can't think of any other way.
But why company housing? I mean, that's housing built by the company. That's the way they used to do it.
It is, and that means if you work at Yahoo, you know you can get a job near Yahoo if you want.
Yeah, but
mean a house.
that doesn't really go. I think it's getting a little off the topic of the Baylands, but people don't work for companies long enough to make that worthwhile. If people stay at Yahoo for 2 years, Yahoo doesn't have much of an incentive to keep those people. I guess it's just a way of saying it doesn't really mesh with corporate priorities at this point.
Well, Yahoo has done it, and I think it was Yahoo, but they're apartments that they rent. They're not houses that they're buying.
Long-term rentals like
Okay, and that is one of the things that is driving long-term residents out of San Francisco, is the influx of tech employees so that they can live, Salesforce people want to live in San Francisco. And so, where are the teachers of their kids going to live?
It's a complicated issue. So, page 40. I recently wrote a admittedly convoluted and lengthy article on food, water, and farming in California. And I just, looking at that illustration at figure 34, I wanted to call to your attention that 59% of the emissions associated with food have been created before the food has reached the consumer. So I just wanted to think about that for a second. There were some key performance indicators. Where did those go? And one of them was, let me see, page 40 here.
It was on page 43, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So if a goal is to operate with food raised within 150 miles, 25 and then raising to 50%, I thought perhaps an equally valuable goal would be to ensure that all of the menus, or have a goal that all the menus have a vegan option that's actually more than a salad. It seems to me to be of equal value. Perhaps not.
Great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, thank you.
Cuts down on water all over.
Yeah, it really does.
Many different levels.
It's going to probably do every bit or more as, in terms of reducing water footprint and resource footprint, your food footprint. So during the DER process, we talked quite a bit about we feeling inadequate about the 100-year flood zone as a metric. However, it came back in here. Where are you? Which page? I was a stupid person and didn't write down the page for this one. I did that pretty religiously. But I think I did not do it for this one. It's on 55, and I think it's also somewhere else. Okay, it's on 51. So really realizing that it's maybe obsolete. Well, okay, yeah. So it is.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So page 51, last paragraph, final sentence, build to avoid major flood risk by keeping the lowest finished floor at least 100 feet or at least 1 foot above the 100-year flood plan. And we talked a lot over the DER about how with the climate change progressing, the 100-year flood event is going to become like, I just heard a number and I didn't write it down. I think it's like once every 10 years or something. They're expecting the 100-year flood events to occur. And we talked about the combination of subsidence and sea level rise not feeling that 1 foot above the 100-year event that's now going to happen every 25 years is a sufficient margin of safety.
Well, it says on page 47, or page, I shouldn't use my version, but under common international targets, it says water efficiency.
That's 56 on ours, I think.
Page what?
Projects in areas of flood risk and sea level rise should have an acceptable 100-year flood risk strategy. So, you know, it's left pretty vague. Again, this is going to be tweaked as the understanding of sea level rise and flood risk get better.
Yeah.
So I don't think that we really...
Okay. It was really the comment on page 51.
Okay, so here's another one. Recognize that the current 100-year floodplain map may become obsolete.
And that's good.
Use the most up-to-date information from the evolving knowledge on climate change and sea level rise as noted by the BCDC.
And that's
other
good.
reports. Build to avoid major flood risk by keeping the lowest finished floor at least 1 foot above the 100-year floodplain, but it acknowledges that the floodplain is going to change.
Okay.
Is that satisfactory?
I personally would make it more robust because with subsidence, I don't know that 1 foot is going to be adequate in the Baylands, but that is the committee's prerogative.
You know, Glenn, I have one comment.
Sure.
That I realize is, in a document like this, the less you can use initials and acronyms, I think the better, even though it makes the document a little bit longer, because a while from now, people aren't going to know who BCDC is. You know, they might not. That organization might change. Just certain things like that to make sure that it really is clear and we don't use a lot of...
No, you're right, and I noticed a couple of places under, you know, in the building section where there was an acronym. I thought,
what the hell is that?
What is that?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's useful.
Yeah.
We have a glossary too.
Yeah, and we could have a glossary would be.
I still think it's better to just write it out.
I do too. So many people never realized that EIR was Environmental Impact Review, an Environmental Impact Report.
So page 54, there's a chart that says submeters are required for landscaping over 5,000 square feet. Since the standard lot size in Brisbane is 5,000 square feet and normally about 50% of the lot is covered with structures and amenities like sidewalks and driveways, this threshold didn't seem to hold a lot of water with me. Current water conservation ordinance only permits 100 square feet of irrigated landscape, but it doesn't have to be metered unless it's like the whole lot. And I just thought we need to bring those two things
Yeah, but this is not
closer together.
residential.
It's
area.
residential and commercial, if you look at the chart.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't personally, I'm not really invested in what the final numbers are, but 5,000 square feet is not going to catch anybody, pretty much. And I think if you're going to make a regulation, it should catch some fraction of the population. It should actually do some regulating. So, I mean, is it 1,000? Is it 2,500? Is it 3,000? I don't know. I don't care. I'm not here to dictate, but...
Is it targeting commercial or residential use?
Both.
Both. It's in that chart.
Oh, look at that.
And I was just thinking we should also move, if we're moving residential down, we should move commercial down too and be fair.
Yeah, I'm good with 1,000.
Okay.
100 by 100.
Yeah.
I mean, how much does a sub-meter cost? I mean, they're going to want to monitor how much water they're putting in there anyway because they don't want to be, putting a lot of water on the landfill.
Yeah, I mean,
concrete.
I'm looking at putting sub-meters in each of my, and I have a teeny little backyard, but I'm looking at putting in sub-meters just so I can monitor and track how much water I'm using.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's as big a deal as it used to be.
Okay. Do we want to actually decide on a number, or does everybody want to email, or would we leave that completely up into the Baylands Sustainability Committee?
Make a suggestion to the Baylands.
Okay. I have,
So what language do you want then?
just to lower the threshold was,
For sub-meter.
for sub-metering.
I would almost say, you know, I mean, this is just kind of off the top of my head, but instead of making it based on the size of the property, they should make it based on the type of plants. And so if they have low water, you know, native plants, then they can, you know, be exempt from having a meter. But if they want to have turf, then they have to have a meter. And
It's not enforceable as easily.
it's just off the top of my head. I
Well, I
wasn't.
mean, it's a
No,
good
it's good
idea,
discussion.
Yeah.
but we wouldn't be able to have it when it comes down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
It's not going to be enforceable over time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what makes me crazy about some of the stuff we do right now. And for the next 10 years, you have to do this, that, and the other thing. And after that, screw it. You know, I mean, that's what some of this development agreements say. In just like, what's the point? You know?
Okay, so we have, oops. So we had somebody put forward 1,000. Does everybody else feel like that's a? I mean, I don't want to make a firm recommendation to the sustainability committee, but you know,
I'm just visualizing, okay.
100 by 100.
That's not 100 by 100. It's 10
I'm
by
sorry.
100. Sorry, I said it wrong.
Yes. Okay.
But imagine a 10-foot by 100-foot swath. That's a pretty big swath of land, you know?
Yeah,
Also not taking
I mean,
account-
I live on a mini lot. It's 50 by 20, and that's, if my math is right, that's 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, your math is right.
Yeah.
So
We could do like 1,000 for
That-
residential and 2,000 for
well,
commercial.
yeah. I mean, I guess my point is
Sorry.
that means that almost every single property in Brisbane would then fall under that.
But this is on the Baylands.
But if you're going to put in sub-meters and you're going to make such a small space, and you put in a soccer field, you're going to have 10 sub-meters to water the field.
No, it says greater than. So you can have, like, you know,
1 meter
one
for the whole field.
sub-meter for the whole soccer field.
Just one per.
You could, yeah. I mean, it just says sub-meters. It doesn't say how many sub-meters you have to have.
I think we should maybe just recommend that the committee review it further, you know, and come up with an appropriate amount that is going to
Sure.
that is going to bring more people into, you know, under that regulation, but you make it TBD.
Okay, I'm fine with that. The only other thought I had about that is you could do it by square footage, and that might be the best way to do it. But I thought, and I, you know, maybe this needs vetting, but maybe the big users. So by how much? If your account is over a certain number, then you have to put in a sub-meter because then you have to start being accountable for your water.
I think they're all going to have to be accountable for
Okay.
their water. We're talking 10 years from now. Water is going to be our most precious resource.
Okay.
And I have no problem with 1,000
Okay.
because this is the outdoor use on any property.
Okay.
And it should be metered. And the technology's there. This is a planned development. It's not a hardship. It's not your backyard.
I would actually think that, you know, in the plan maybe it doesn't happen, but in the actuality when you're living somewhere, if you have a landscape meter, you don't have to pay sewer charges on that water. And so there's other financial advantages to doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have no problem with recommending 1,000.
Yep. Okay.
It takes a lot of water to water 1,000 square feet.
It doesn't say over what period of time. Oh, it doesn't. Wouldn't need to, but that's fine. Only if you did the amount of water consumed. And then I had pedestrian and bikeways are often designed for recreation, relaxation, and sight viewing. A point should be made about efficient and direct paths used by people for simply getting from point A to point B, lest the designers create a walking environment unconducive to people with a destination in mind. This is just one of my beefs with public designers, is they seem to think that they need to make this really beautiful, flowing walkway, and 90% of the people who are using any pedestrian mode are like, I want to go there. I want to go over there to that coffee shop and get my coffee and get to work. So,
Page is that?
It does, it's not a particular page, it's just a general comment, because I sort of noticed in the original proposals for the Baylands that there's a lot of swell meandering trails. And then I Google imaged, or actually Yahoo Maps, this thing. And this red line, if you want to walk from the park to the Thai House of Thai, the walkway actually goes like this.
Okay.
Follow the yellow line. The prescribed path actually goes like that. And people are forever tromping across this piece of landscaping, and they're always putting up yellow tape and wires and stuff because they don't want people walking through their landscaping, but everybody takes this shortcut. And it's just...
It's really true, and it's also
Yeah.
sometimes very uncomfortable for a pedestrian to share a pathway with a bicycler who is intent on commuting.
Yeah. So because this document addresses making pedestrian and bike-friendly streets, and because I feel that designers habitually over-design these paths, I felt that it was sort of an obvious but important point.
Yeah.
How would you like to put it?
Well, I can send the text that I have here to Natalie, and it's basically what I just said. Bike and pedestrian walkways are often designed for recreation, relaxation, and sight viewing. A point should be made about efficient and direct paths used by people for simply getting from point A to B, lest the designers create a walking environment that is unconducive to people with a destination in mind. I guess you would need to phrase that in the affirmative, that we will have, or walkways and bikeways will be designed with destination in mind, rather than aimless wandering.
For example, in Tokyo, and they have 20 million people there that they have to manage the flow of, on the sidewalks, you have people going this direction and people going this direction. And you stay on your side of the sidewalk. And if you want to stop or meander or look at something, you step out of the path, and there are places to sort of step out. And so it flows because they don't have a lot of vehicle traffic. It's all pedestrian. No, they don't. It's all pedestrian, trains, a few bicycles. And it just makes it so much easier to walk when you know you got to walk, and no one's going to stop suddenly in front of you or stop to look at something or whatever.
Stop to check their phone.
Or stop to, wander around looking at their phone. They wait till they're on the subway to do that. And I think that is going to be more the wave of the future if you are going to have people. And also when I looked at the Baylands plan, and they said, bicycle commute friendly, it's not. There were only like 2 possible places to take a bicycle over the railroad tracks in the plan, in the developer's plan. And one of them's like Tunnel Road, the bridge, and the other one was the train station. And I think one of them, I don't even know if the Geneva overpass or the Geneva extension or whatever they were talking had one. So it's not bicycle friendly at all for commuting or meandering.
So I think the assumption here is that we're going to throw this at the developer and get them to approve the plan.
Right.
According to what's set forth here.
Right.
And in the transportation section, page 32 of my copy, which it's the section of recommended key performance indicators in the transportation chapter. Number 5 says complete a level of service analysis. There's a typo there in my version. Should read of cycling and walking to ensure a level B or better grade for all sidewalks, paths, roads, and intersections. Include at least the following metrics in the analysis. Safety, accessibility, for example, obstructions in sidewalk, mid-block access, convenience, e.g. shortest path, minimal way to intersections, signage and navigation, parking availability and convenience, and comfort. So it seems to me that kind of addresses what you're referring to.
Yeah, it's more covered than I had realized, and I appreciate that, and yeah, okay. Thank you, Glenn.
We just got to make sure that
That's what
we
all
rein
these
in
meetings
those-
were for.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just got to make sure we rein in those overly creative designers.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to throw out something about, and Glenn's going to notice what I'm going to say about methane surveying and the baylands, and that the methane capture system needs to be effective going into the future, and not, because it's not necessarily effective right now. But, I mean, once we've got people living out there and services full-time, we need to make sure that, and I don't remember methane.
No, I don't think it's
specifically
mentioned in here.
Mentioned in here, so,
We did talk about the landfill and about chemicals. I'm trying to remember where.
So I found this online. This is a methane map of the baylands.
Okay.
Wow, where'd you get that?
I found it online from a methane surveying company. But the one caveat I have to say is that we don't know what the units are here. So these really tall things could be pretty small amounts, but so.
Yeah, but when it's contained, a small amount becomes.
A lot more than the surrounding areas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just making sure that the Baylands development is not a new source of methane, and that the existing methane from the landfill is being effectively captured and contained and
Maybe used.
maybe used. That would be great, because Recology's got that thing and we can shunt it off to them. That's my style.
Yeah, I don't think we said anything. I don't think we said anything about that. So I'm not sure where it should go, but it should go in there somewhere.
And then my last thing was about life cycle assessment. I just had to sneak in this graphic because it's one of my favorites. And this is actually done by onecommunityglobal.org, which I don't think they have any affiliation with One Planet, but they seem to have a lot of the same ideas. And they actually did life cycle assessment for all the different types of water heaters. And this is just, this information is out there, and it can be used and circulated and stuff, so.
Oh, hell, we're not going to have any water to heat.
Well, there you go, Michelle.
So where did you want to put that?
So this isn't something for this document. It was just an example that I wanted to share of life cycle assessment. So this was more for the committee, except I didn't make copies of it for everyone because my printer died. Yay! Dead printer. It's being recycled into e-waste via Dan Sorrentino. And then I just had a couple questions. That was it. I'm sorry, you guys. I tried. Page 19, San Mateo County is in partnership with Recology. I thought Ecology was San Francisco and Scavengers was. Is there something I don't know?
Yeah, Recology is not limited to San Francisco.
Okay. I just didn't know that. Okay. Page 22, item E, what are M+V requirements? That was,
Page what?
22, item E, M+V requirements. I knew all these acronyms except for that one.
I don't
know what that is.
Which one?
It was under item E.
On which page?
22 on mine. Let me see if I can give you a broader description.
It's on the screen.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Cheese production. Oh, M+V requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that myself. So I think that's Michelle's guidance.
Yeah, I
to
probably
write out
just left
acronyms.
one out
We should do
because
that
that's already
throughout.
covered. And then page 38, item 3. Establish targets 10% reduction in standard construction code compliant baseline to minimize embodied energy and show progress towards a target. I was just wondering where the 10% came from. Is that one of those? No, it's not commonly accepted international standards. I just I just was wondering what the rationale behind that is. I mean, I know cutting 89% is not going to be feasible in a baseline material like that. And, you know, like concrete, I mean, how do you cut 90% out of concrete, except using 90% less concrete? But I was just wondering where the number came from, and could it be made a little more robust? Or, and if it can't,
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. We don't, okay. Page 38, item 2A. I thought it would be useful to elaborate on finished materials, because I didn't know what that was referring to. 2A. Yeah, reduce the need for finished materials and promote source reduction goals.
What was the question?
I just didn't understand that statement. I mean, what are they what qualifies as finished materials and?
Oh, so things like floor finishes and stuff. I mean, if you can use a concrete floor.
You mean like varathane or?
It would be like, for instance, instead of having this paneling in here, you would have whatever the submaterial was.
Yeah.
Would have been, you know, etched or designed to be by itself without the extra stuff.
Okay.
Or like, you know, polished concrete floors instead of, you know.
Yeah, with an overlay.
Carpet and
Yeah.
overlay, that kind of thing.
Okay.
For entryways and
If
stuff.
that's much clearer. If everybody's fine with it, it's not important to me. I just didn't know what they meant.
You know, elevators that are lined in marble from around the world, like 101
There you go.
California
There's
Street.
a good example.
It is.
Page 44, figure 8 is blurry. And I actually found a higher res version online, and I gave the link to that. So, you can use that. And page 52, item 2A. So, I usually consider myself pretty water issue aware, but biological waste, I just didn't know what, this is just more gradations.
So what's the question?
Never mind, I think I understand it now. I needed to get to some distance. So, scratch that one, it makes sense now that I look at it again the next day, you know, later. It didn't make sense to me when I read it the first time. Okay, so I'm done. Does anybody need a break? Did I exhaust everyone?
I'd rather push to finish.
Okay.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
So are we having a subcommittee or not?
I took some notes. I would be happy to write them up and circulate them.
Glenn, I think you've done a fabulous job.
Exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go back to number 2 and say that, you know, these things that I brought up, questions and ideas, are in no way reflection of a job poorly done. It was very well done.
Good. I'm glad you think so. So what's the procedure that we want to do now? I can type these up. I took notes.
I think you should just type them up and submit them to your people, and if they want to put them in, then they can put them in.
I think I have to send them to Natalie. I mean, I'm not in charge of submitting. I'm not even sure I'm going to be in town for that meeting when this is discussed. So this is going to have to be a written communication, and I'm not sure who I even submit it to. Should I just send them to you guys? You'll see they get where they need to go.
Okay. And I can send you a what I wrote so that you can, to make your job easier, so you can cut and paste from it.
Well, I've pretty thoroughly condensed what you said.
Okay, good. If you need any of the links
So
or anything,
send me the link to that one thing that you wanted to
All right.
So I'll just write up a little memo.
Okay.
Does everybody here want me to send it to them, or do you just want me to?
I'll look at it.
All right.
Sure. So that'll go to Natalie, and Natalie can distribute it to the full committee. And if you don't hear back from us, it's good.
So do you want me to send it to you all first? And then I don't want to get involved in a big thing. So,
You kind of have to send it to Natalie because of the
Yeah.
Brown Act.
Yeah.
all right. So then Natalie can send it to you all.
Oh, but wait, it
and
can't go to all of us because that's a Brown Act thing too, which is why we were supposed to do a subcommittee, I think.
Well, I'll send it to Natalie.
Okay.
We just want to see it. That's
Okay.
all. It's,
And
we're not
she
making
can
any
send it to-
decisions on it. We're not having a discussion about it. We're just going to see what she wrote.
Okay, is it okay for us each to just make sure that our points got
I think so, yeah.
accurately relayed without violating? Okay.
So what am I doing? I'm sending it to Natalie, and
Yes.
she'll send it to you.
Okay, great. And if you don't hear back from us, that's a stamp of approval. And if we have some, and we will just comment on our own things, we'll not comment on other things that we're making, not making group decisions behind anybody's back.
Nope.
And, okay, great. So approval of the minutes.
You skipped the EAP.
Oh, sorry. Wishful thinking. All right, so 5, EAP. Did anybody have a chance? I know that only came out today. Did anybody have a chance to look at it?
I haven't even looked at
I haven't. Should we table that for next time, or does
I
this
was
have
I was
to be
just going to
after?
ask that because I think we wanted to talk through each measure and get feedback, and I
Yeah.
think what we're heading towards is asking to do a council study session, so we really need to spend time, so
Okay.
You guys,
let me
the subcommittee?
just say that right now we have enough ideas to supply us with about 50% of our needed reductions.
That's
and
all?
That, as I remember, isn't that what you said?
yep, that's what
And that's bad. I was hoping that after Glenn and I beat around this mulberry bush, we would have enough ideas to, my personal sort of internal dialogue was that we would have enough ideas to do 150% of our required reductions so that we could then make choices about feasibility and practicality and money and implementation strategies and blah, 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 that we would have this plethora of things that we could then choose from. That is not the way that it has gone.
Well, my recommendation is we all go home and take the sustainability framework and take this and siphon the ideas out of here into here and make them practical and applicable for our residential area.
Great idea.
Because there's a lot of really good stuff in here that we could, if we creatively meld these two together, we could make this a much more robust document.
I think part of the problem that we're going to have getting higher is that, and I've said this many times, I'll just say it one more time, a lot of the things that need to be done at the county level. And they are things that, we could say we want to do this, but Brisbane does not have the money. And so they're going to need to be done at the county level. The other thing is, we really have very little control over transportation, and a huge percentage of our emissions are transportation related. And so, we're part of what we're running into, I think, is obstacles related to the level of government at which these plans are being written. And so I just want to underline county, 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 because, it's, I actually thought when we started this, because I've been through a baby version of it before, that Brisbane is, by itself is going to have a really tough time meeting any kind of substantial target. We've got, where do our emissions come from? They come from housing, a lot of which is old, and a lot of which depends on individual actions from residents, and from transportation. And so it's really going to be tough unless we can get some money from the county to hire staff to go door to door and get people to do stuff, which we've both said that we would like to have happen. But it's going to be hard short of that, I think, to get the reductions we need. One thing I do wonder, though, maybe you can answer this, and I should know it, but I don't. Is this CO2e that we're trying to reduce? Is it CO2e or is it CO2? Do you remember?
I would hope it's CO2e, but...
Because I'm just curious about methane. So just for the committee's FYI, the idea actually came from Barbara, who, and this methane survey. Well, so I was looking through old emails trying to get rid of some of these 60,000 in my mailbox.
Just throw the computer away.
That I've saved in the belief that someday I would actually read them. So anyway, so I was looking through old emails, and I found one in there from Environmental Defense Fund, and I'm really surprised I read it because it said nothing about methane in the subject line, but it said the secret something or other. So I opened it, and there it was, an article about methane leaks in cities from the gas installations that go into their houses. In other words, from all the pipelines that lie underneath and all the individual connections. And they showed 2 cities, one of which was, I don't know, it was like Indianapolis or something. And one of the cities had not had its methane leaks discovered, and it was really amazing how many leaks, small leaks, were present in this city. And then they showed a city that did have its methane leaks inventoried and fixed, and some real reductions. And so I was thinking, if methane leaks can be counted against our total reductions, and if we could get that done, that might really get us somewhere. So I sent you guys that email too. I don't know if you got it and had time to deal with it, but
I replied.
Yeah, I know you did.
So the methane leaks come from where exactly? Which piping?
Joints and pipes.
Sewer? Or
No, it's gas lines.
Gas lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and apparently there's now Google, I think in connection with Google Earth, and they have some kind of measuring equipment. They can actually find these things. And so the pitch in this Environmental Defense Fund email was nominate your city to have a leak survey done.
That's when you posted on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, so I did, and I assume several other people have followed up. But that might be good, but I'm going to follow up on it too. I'm going to call Environmental Defense Fund. I want to try to get some numbers and see, how big an issue this actually is. And if it is, then I plan to write to Jerry Hill about it. He's our state senator, and see if he'll introduce legislation, because if California is going to meet this big target that Jerry Brown has put out for 2030, that's going to be one of the ways to meet it. And PG&E is on the hot seat, so it's probably kind of a good time to
Yes.
to make them even more uncomfortable. We probably do have a lot of leaks just because the piping is old. I mean, the major pipes are old, the minor pipes are old. All the plumbing for natural gas in this whole area is really antiquated, except for what PG&E has recently replaced. So there probably is a lot of methane leaking.
Yeah, and even in the newer developments, some of them were so poorly built that I'm sure there's leaks.
Yeah. And I just want to remind everybody that methane is about 80 times more potent than CO2 as a greenhouse gas.
It depends on the time frame that you're looking at, but
that's true. 20 to 80%, depending on your time frame.
Mm-hmm.
But even 20% is nothing to sneeze at. And so even a little bit of methane leaking out is, there's health concerns, there's dangers, there's climate impact, you name it. It's bad.
So you guys, you haven't had a chance to look at that yet?
We looked at it. I've asked about putting it on the city website. I haven't heard back, but probably you could expect it, assuming that we get a yes on the Friday, the blast that goes out on Friday, and then on the website also to nominate.
Okay, thanks. And I will try to do a little bit of research on it and report on it at some point. Probably not the next meeting because I may not be here, but at some point I'll let you all know what I find out.
Yeah, I discovered it because of the Years of Living Dangerously, which Glenn had recommended, and I think it was episode 6 of that. I just had to stop the video and get a piece of paper because it floored me, what I was seeing there. And it's an issue we don't, it's nothing, it's something I consider myself pretty aware and pretty but I'd never even considered methane leaking in our streets. So that made a big impact on me. So I think that's kind of all Glenn and I want to say about the EAP this time.
Yeah, we should probably talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the agenda for next meeting.
So if you guys have brilliant ideas, please send them to Natalie. We're in need of a magic light bulb. Okay.
Was there a date by which we were supposed to bring this to the council? That's the only thing that worries me is that we're gonna blow through that deadline if we don't do it tonight.
They're just very interested in us having a plan, but they haven't given us a deadline. They just keep asking about it, so.
I don't have the juice to do it tonight.
I don't really either.
It's 8:30.
I'm tired.
Why don't we,
Yeah, we're not.
why don't we really make this a priority for the next meeting?
Okay.
And then we can schedule the study session, planning on.
Yeah, I'd like to
through
be
this.
around for the, well, I guess
Yeah.
I won't be around for the meeting probably.
You're gonna probably miss June, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
But
I'd probably ask for a study session like 3 weeks after our meeting.
Okay.
But
So-
she's saying if she's not here in June, then we would have to do it as a committee in July.
Oh,
Well, no, you can do it without me.
Well, okay.
And then we could have a subcommittee meeting, a follow-up
Yeah.
to go through stuff.
Okay.
Well, we may have another subcommittee meeting before the OSEC meeting. Is that right? We hadn't scheduled one, but I suppose it's conceivable that we might.
We could, yeah. Do you know when you're gone?
Pardon?
Do you know when you're gone?
Let's talk about it after.
Yeah, let's do that after.
It's not a public question.
Can we go on to approval of the minutes? Yeah. Okay. Karen, did you get a chance to do that letter for the under Brisbane Acres lot coverage?
No, that's one thing that is still, I have not forgotten about it.
Okay.
I'm trying to do a grant application for the safe pedestrian routes that's due June 1st, and it's humongous, so I'll put it on my list to do it right after that.
Okay.
I apologize.
So I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that was done. Next item is election of chair and vice chair.
I nominate Kima for chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was quick. We'll have your formal investiture sometime soon. You have a really good ceremony.
Oh, do you accept? Kima, are you willing?
Yes, I'm proud. I'm proud to accept. We had discussed it last year and had agreed that I would take over after
We'll
Barbara.
bring out the Iron Throne for you to sit on.
Yes.
And then it's
I
the,
didn't get an Iron Throne. I object.
No, it's the Iron Throne is for all dissenters to be electrocuted on. It's not for the chair to sit on.
I'm a dissenter in general.
No, I'm just talking about people who use styrofoam containers.
and I guess it's the next longest standing committee member. Michael, would you like to be vice chair?
Next longest?
Well, I mean,
6 months.
yeah. I mean, Glenn served, Barbara served, I've served, now Kima's serving.
I guess I have no choice.
No, you can say no, but
You have a choice.
Yeah, I said no last year,
Yes.
yeah.
which is how I got it this year.
So you can sign me up and I can change my mind later.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Can we-
Chair- Okay, did you want to say something,
Oh,
Michelle?
just wondering how much of this stuff we can table for next time. And can we go through it really fast if not? Because I am fading fast.
Keep going a little bit. I mean, we normally go to 8:30 anyway, so.
And it's 8:30.
It's
Yeah.
8:30.
But I thought, we could do 110%.
We can
105%.
definitely. I encourage you to go past 8:30 tonight because it will be the last time.
For a year. Oh, good.
Okay, what timeline is everybody got the stamina for? I think that's
5
a fair way
minutes.
to question.
Yeah, really, five.
I would like to eat some dinner.
Yeah.
Everybody's tired.
It's just exhausting right now.
Just a quick announcement before we break. Caroline wanted me to announce that we're having a Peninsula Sunshares workshop here in Brisbane, and so I think everyone got a flyer that was there. So
Oh.
Okay, let's try and do I.
Oh,
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
skip I because I forgot the paper anyway. It's on my desk. And then we'll spend 1 minute on each of the remaining 4 items. 1 1 minute per, and that'll get us done in 4 minutes. Does that sound good?
Yeah, do it.
Okay, let's do it. Discussion of opposition of fracking.
I'm against fracking. There, we're done.
Okay.
Yes.
So we
We're
have
all
two
against
options.
fracking.
We can ask the city council to ban fracking in Brisbane, which would be a symbolic gesture, or we can ask city council, we can try and author a letter to go to Jerry Brown from the city of Brisbane.
Or
Two possible routes, or we could do both.
both.
Well, put it on the
Both.
agenda for next time.
Next time, okay, we are officially going to do both next time. Great. Bike to work day recap. It was fabulous.
That's right.
Unfortunately, because rain was predicted, we had about 200 people less than usual.
Oh, that's too bad.
And they actually believed that prediction?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a little ludicrous to me. I had the map that Michelle provided for us. Unfortunately, it did not get put up until I got there, and I got there late because I was on my own with my teenage son that day. And so, but you can't really see it. We're going to have to find a different. I didn't want to use pens because I thought the pens would make the paper soggy because everybody goes the same way, more or less.
This is a AAA map. It can stand up to pens.
Okay. So we actually got a lot of people who trace their routes out, and we're just going to have to do it and do it better next year.
Oh, cute.
Right. We had people going to Mountain View, Menlo Park,
Yeah.
San Bruno, and
We got some people.
yeah, we had people from Google biking down to Mountain View. They said it would take them 3 hours one way, but
Yeah.
They're going to do it anyway?
yeah,
That's
so it was awesome, yeah, to see that.
Can I ask, is the intention of the map to get a kind of a poll of where people are going?
It's an artistic, interactive, informal, visual representation of what's going on. It's just
fun.
for fun.
We could do that on Google Maps next time and be able to save it and use
Okay.
year-over-year analysis of big
Yeah.
data.
Maybe we need a laptop next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, people were actually very happy to stop by, chat, get some refreshments. We need more like muffins, pastries. Like everyone was hungry and already.
Usually there are more volunteers bringing goodies. I brought about 5 dozen oatmeal raisin cookies, and you brought.
I bought muffins. Yeah,
Yeah,
health
so
muffins.
Those things were much appreciated. I think our minute's up. Does any,
Yep,
do you
minute's
want
up.
to add anything quickly?
It was a great event. So yeah.
More
Thank-
participation next year would be grand.
Thanks for doing that, you guys.
Yeah.
I saw the picture. I was,
Yeah, picture's
Yeah.
great.
Sustainability webpage.
So we have Megan and I met, and we worked on with Natalie to put up 2 articles about plastics and their impact on people's health and the environment. If you haven't had a chance to look at them, one of them is from the National Defense Council, and the other one we wrote based on facts that I found online that just in the U.S. There are 50 billion plastic bottles disposed just from water every year, and only about less than 20% of them get recycled. So close to 40 billion plastic bottles go to landfill every year or being dumped in the ocean. So we wanted to create awareness, and we created a section called Tips for Sustainable Living on the sustainability website, which hopefully Natalie can share the links, and we want to share them with the community. So people can just be aware that, instead of using water bottles, plastic all the time, bring your own water from home or use a reusable bottle, because just a lot gets dumped into landfill and the ocean. So.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, did that say anything about microwaving food in plastic?
We didn't particularly talk about that, but yeah, that's, I think, a very good point about an article about that topic also, yeah, because that's also very dangerous.
Or rolling a bit into there.
Yep.
Either way, it was just a thought.
Library shelf?
Okay. So Megan and I have been working on that. We added a couple categories, which were,
Compostable and, what was the other one?
was it habitat?
Habitat.
Yeah. And did those get added to the website?
Yeah, I believe everything you guys sent me, I added.
Okay. I looked at it the other day and I didn't notice them, but I was looking pretty quick. And you were supposed to have brought any of your materials by today for the shelf and give them to Natalie.
Give it to her after.
The question is, how are they getting to the library?
I think you were going to collect them, and then either Megan or I, or you can round them up and take them over.
Okay, so once everyone gets them to me, I'll let.
Yeah, the
I'll let
shelf
you
is
guys
supposed
know.
to be launching in a few days, so
Great.
we need to get that posted up. Or if it gets posted after it's already officially launched, that's okay, because that'll give us the chance to iron out the bugs.
So I can drop mine off to you tomorrow?
Yeah, if you just come and leave them at the planning desk, they'll leave everything in my cube.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I gave you mine, right? You didn't?
Yeah, that's why I was going to bring yours. I actually have yours, so.
Oh,
Okay.
That's, yeah, so, yeah, I have them
Okay.
sitting right on my shelf and didn't think about it when I left work this
We
morning.
can add more stuff.
Yeah.
You can keep adding, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll weed out more.
So are you carrying everything up, Megan, or is?
I mean, I could do it
Are you
if
getting
guys
stuff
want,
from?
but
I can do it too.
I was thinking it was just easier to have it in one location.
Yeah, I was figuring.
Instead of somebody's house and driving around fine. So
Yeah.
then when we have what everybody has to give, then I'll take it and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it.
Then we'll decide who's doing the actual
Whoever's-
pedestrian
So they
business.
started the shelf already?
It's in progress. It's supposed to be launching in a week or so.
Are they gonna say anything about it on the library? The library sends out.
It was shared as part of the weekly community engagement email that City Hall sends. So
Okay.
that link went up 2 weeks ago. Right.
Brisbane Library also
Yeah.
sends out, I think they send out a calendar or some announcement thingy at least once a month, and it'd be nice if we could get them to include
Yeah.
that in their, their little blurb that they send out. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Library shelf folks, ask the library to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I forget to do that.
Are we ready for staff updates?
Yep.
Awesome.
You got 4 minutes. We had 4 minutes. You got 4 minutes.
A lot of people came to Habitat Restoration Day. Joe Cannon brought some of his students, so there were a ton of people there. Many OSEC members were there, so it turned out to be a really good event.
It was pretty amazing. I walked by there recently, and it looked great.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Every
more
time
to
I go by,
more to
I'm
get,
like,
but it looks
wow.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Natalie, for coordinating that. And our next Habitat Restoration Day will be Firth Canyon on June.
27.
June what?
27.
Saturday, June 27th. Mark it on your calendars. It's going to be fun. And you'll get another T-shirt, this time with a David Schooley hummingbird picture on it.
June 27th, right?
Yeah.
Oh, bummer. Well, not. Well, I'll be having my daughter's birthday party.
I think we should skip the pine mulch for today, if everybody else agrees.
Let me just throw it out there.
Okay.
That mulch that everyone saw that had Italian stone pine in it, no Monterey pine. So Davy Tree takes all the Monterey pine and treats it, and we believe that means that they burn it all. But they take everything. They have cover trucks. They take it away, and we didn't have any Monterey pine out in our mulch pile.
Thank you, Karen. I'll sleep better at night now.
Yeah.
I figured it was time.
Where'd they get so much Italian stone pine?
Trimmings. We have stone pine out on Sierra Point off of Marina Boulevard.
Okay.
A lot of those are.
Thank you.
Sure.
Plastic bag recycling?
We were requested to have a plastic bag recycling container, and I believe it was put in the franchise agreement that South San Francisco Scavenger provide us one. So we have one delivered, and it's in the community meeting room lobby. Some of the OSEC members have seen it, but staff is interested in putting it potentially at the post office. And we're still trying to get from Scavenger what is allowed to be put in a plastic bag recycling, because we're not sure if it's dry cleaning bag covers, if it's bubble wrap, or if it's just plastic bags like Barbara has a sample of up there. And at the post office, it could be manned. They have a couple other recycling containers, and it could be a little more manned, whereas this is unseen and nothing that's dirty, or has food in it can be put in that recycling. So we're trying to get it somewhere that makes more sense than here in the lobby where people won't necessarily know.
What happens to it after that? I mean, do they recycle it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Into what?
more plastic bags, I guess.
They actually can make plastic bags, I think, out of old plastic bags.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were hoping to find out more details because I looked online and found conflicting information about, like, well, are the cereal bags plastic bags that come in your cereal boxes, are those the wrong kind of crinkly plastic, or are they the right kind of plastic?
When's the next
So
date
we're
of our
still
next
trying to get
meeting?
that.
When's the date of our next meeting?
June 17th.
June 17th. Okay. I move we adjourn.
Wait, so we already did the Peninsula Sun Shares. Is there anything we need to cover about that other than our little flyer?
We've had the 2 meetings, and we're a bit below, but we were the 6th out of all the agencies in the county in terms of signups to have solar companies go out and do assessments.
Which is good.
Great.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It's pretty good for Little Brisbane.
And I believe we've got another meeting coming up, which is here. So we're going to get everybody on board.
The Energy Watch Challenge the subcommittee knows about is small businesses can get audits from San Mateo County Energy Watch for free, and then they'll guide you through the process and help you with rebates, to do energy upgrades if you're a qualified small business. So I'm bringing that to council, and then we're going to do outreach. That's a program that's around for the next couple months. So.
Okay.
One question, Karen. Are you going to talk to Mitch Bull? Because he's usually willing to help with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I put that in the notes. I just want the council to kick it off officially, and then we're going to do the outreach.
Anybody want to move this meeting adjourned?
I did already.
Oh, anybody second? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
We're only 15 minutes over. I think that's pretty good. I know.
Oh, look what a nice bag I have to carry my binder in. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. To drop them off in the plastic bag recycling.